Creative Babble. Você que está ouvindo esse podcast, o que acha de uma empresa que sempre trabalha para trazer impacto positivo? Assim é o Google. Como? A Duda da Orbe é um exemplo disso. Ela usa a inteligência artificial para ajudar pessoas a recuperarem seus movimentos. É a tecnologia mais útil na vida das pessoas. E tem o Jefferson da Tributei, que usa inteligência artificial para facilitar o dia a dia das empresas. Eles e milhares de empreendedores geraram mais de 188 bilhões com as plataformas do Google. Tem que ser bom para todo mundo.
I grew up in Southwest Oklahoma, really small farming community, and I was actually born into a sect. You know, I don't use the word cult, but I do use the word sect because I do believe that there was a lot of indoctrination there.
LaDonna Humphrey told Jason Blair with the Silver Linings podcast that she was raised in a radical church run by an authoritative figure. Their practices included faith healing, speaking in tongue, and laying hands for healing. This church rejects the use of medicine and doctor intervention, believing that praying to God is the true means of healing, for He is the ultimate healer.
It's called the Church of the Firstborn. I'm not sad to out them in any way whatsoever. And it was really one of those things that was forced upon you. It was extremely religious, extremely zealous. Example, people are expected to stand up and confess their innermost sins on Sunday mornings to the entire church. You're not allowed to be vaccinated. It was very extreme. And, you know, being exposed to that as a young child was really kind of a bizarre thing, but you don't know any different. You just know what you know. I really, really pulled hard away from it, wanted to have nothing to do with it at all, and was angry for a really long time.
But Margot, LaDonna's sister, tells a different story.
Well, this church is a very strict church. So they have some beliefs that I certainly don't agree with. I don't know that I would call them a cult, but I'll give you an example.
They're just like kind of extreme Christian type of thing?
Yeah, like they don't want you to stray away from the church at all. So that includes not being able to go to college for some reason. Another thing is they don't believe in doctors. And my mom wasn't having that. It's the church that my father's parents were in. And it's just what was there, how they grew up. So that's it. There was no certain culty things that we were indoctrinated into. I never lived in Rockies.
For my longtime listeners, you may remember my Prophet series, where I did a deep dive into the Word of Faith Fellowship. I was even invited by the leader, Jane Whaley, to attend church with her that day. The Word of Faith Fellowship is considered a cult by some because they've been accused of physically abusing church members and forcing men and boys to stay in isolation for months, even years. They're also known for cutting members away from their outside world, their family, their friends. So I could kind of see where LaDonna is coming from.
Also, a part of the sect is if you have a family member or someone in the church that's not falling in line with the church doctrine, they rejected them, which meant they had to leave the church and leave their family, and you were not to speak to them or have anything to do with them. And that regularly happened in families. And that in and of itself was traumatic. But what that did in my life as an adult, and I still struggle with it, is that if I feel it's really easy for me to get emotional in a situation and want to completely reject somebody. And that comes back to those roots of what I was taught growing up.
Others could say that the Church of the Firstborn is just a very conservative church. But let's give LaDonna the benefit of the doubt here and call this place a sect. Growing up in an oppressive environment doesn't have to define who you will become as a person. I spent a lot of time with the cult that I covered, and I still keep in touch with many of the people who were strong enough to escape. Most of the former cult members used their experience to grow and become better people. But some of the trauma that LaDonna is accused of inflicting on her friends, family, and coworkers seems to be the very thing that she's criticizing about the church she grew up in, like the coercive control, the isolation, the manipulation, and pitting people against each other just to create dependency. Today, we're going to continue our expose on LaDonna's nonprofit, Oasis of Northwest Arkansas. The women in recovery report being subjected to strict rules with severe consequences. they express living in constant fear, feeling that every move is monitored, and scared about the repercussions of attempting to leave. In today's episode, the voices you will hear are not from the residents. Oh no, it's from the house managers who carried out LaDonna's rules. I'm Javier Leyva, and this is Pretend. Stories about real people pretending to be someone else.
Cindy, right over here.
I met Cindy at a park in Bella Vista, Arkansas, right outside of Bentonville, where the two Oasis of Northwest Arkansas houses are located. Cindy wasn't just a resident. She was a house manager who enforced LaDonna's rule.
So I went to treatment in December of 2019.
So you were a resident?
Yeah, at one point, yeah. And that's what I used to tell the girls. I'm like, see that bed right there? I was the top bunk.
When I first reached out to Cindy, she responded that she was worried that my podcast was going to result in Oasis being taken down. What happens to the women, to the children? Where will they go? Have you considered that? She wrote. I told her, I really hope that Oasis doesn't go down. There's a huge need for sober living facilities in the area, and these women can't afford for it to go away. I told her that I think the board needs to seriously consider if Humphrey is the right person to lead the organization. I would like to see an audit to make sure that the women are receiving the benefits that they're expecting to get. After a few back and forths, Cindy agreed to meet with me. My first question was, what changed your mind?
At this point, I said, if I don't, then I'm just as guilty, and whatever goes on forward, I'm a part of. It was Kaylin's interview, and that's what, when I talked to her yesterday, because she was like, I really wanted you to. She goes, but I really didn't think you were, Cindy. And I was like, I didn't want to. And I said, but listening to you, without sounding dramatic, It brought the trauma back.
Oh, yeah?
Like the yes, ma'am. Like, that is mandatory.
Yeah.
And like when new women would come in, they'd be like, K or thumbs up, Shit, would I get the phone call or the text message? Yeah. You need to straighten that up. And I'd have to go to these women and be like, you need to learn respect. Because I knew how to behave.
Like I said, Cindy wasn't just a resident. She was a house manager who enforced LaDonna's rule.
And I was just as ugly.
Right.
And if you can't, there's the door. We do it LaDonna's way. And this was her words. I was her that was on property.
So you were her proxy?
Yeah.
And were you is that your natural management style? Like if you had to do it yourself, like would you, I think to a certain extent you have to run the place with like a tight ship, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have a lot of people living there and all that, but.
If you get everybody to get along. Somewhat, because I do have a background in law enforcement. So there is that take control of the situation. Yeah. Like, you're done. Get your stuff. You need to go. And I tell them it's nothing personal, but this is how it's going to be. Like, you have to leave now. You failed a drug test. You let whatever it is. I'm not here to debate it. I'm not here to discuss it. My job is to get you out of the house.
Like most cults, Oasis of Northwest Arkansas has a defined hierarchy, with LaDonna at the top and the managers acting as the middleman. Cindy told me that this hierarchy reinforces the notion that questioning at any level of authority is equivalent to questioning LaDonna herself.
You know what I mean? And when you have that fear of, where am I going to go? Where am I going to, and I'm not saying she forced me, but I also knew I had a thing to do.
Managers are there to enforce the rules, oversee expulsion, and carry out disciplinary actions. If they comply, they earn LaDonna's praise. And LaDonna's praise is worth everything. Because the alternative is the fear of being kicked out and losing your support structure.
You know what I mean? And that is what got me, but then that can be taken away. Like one day I was that, and the next minute the girl next door was. I don't even know what I did to lose my position.
I spoke with Melissa, who was another manager at Oasis. She told me that not all managers are abusive.
Some of the managers have heart and they know what to do with that authority.
Some genuinely care for the residents and try to use their position to provide support. However, even well-meaning managers are trapped within the system, often forced to comply with LaDonna's directives or face the consequences themselves.
They either it goes to their head and they become abusive like LaDonna, because keep in mind, a lot of these women that are recovering addicts and stuff, once they're given a management position, they can write people up. They can, of course, as directed by LaDonna, but some women abused it and some women like me, I turned it into a positive, even though I had to write people up. There's a way to go about it and it doesn't have to be in a cruel way. It can go in and most of the managers on campus, we are Oasis.
Like any successful cult leader, LaDonna Humphrey maintains a public facade to attract new members and raise money. But residents say that behind closed doors, she's manipulative and controlling.
LaDonna, she wants this done, she wants that done. And it's such a chaotic environment that everyone is literally so exhausted by the end of the day that we fall into our beds.
The residents and the managers I've spoken to say they are constantly busy. Being exhausted prevents them from stepping back and seeing the big picture. Cult leaders use physical and mental exhaustion to break down resistance and enforce compliance. Then you have the emotional manipulation. LaDonna's unpredictable behavior and threats of expulsions creates a constant state of anxiety and dependency. Cult leaders often use the fear of punishment to keep members in line.
I don't know that we were, but if you ask anybody, she's LaDonna's best friend. They're best friends. I thought we were best friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was in that, like you said, that inner circle. Mm-hmm. But my rules were a little different. If my Life 360 had gone down, it probably would have been turned around. You know what I mean?
But wait a minute.
I was also trusted. I wasn't a brand new person.
So you were a manager. You had already
and
graduated. So why is she tracking your location?
It's part of being in the house.
That's crazy. Is that crazy?
Everybody. And then it got to the point, if you let your phone die, it's immediate dismissal, according to the handbook. And then it got to a point that she would have the managers, like a certain manager would observe or, watch the 360 all night to say, well, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's there, and so-and-so's battery's about to die. So then it was, if it goes below 40, you'll be written up. Or there was
40% battery?
40%.
Oh my
Make
God.
sure your phone is charged.
Look at this. Look at my phone right now. I'd be kicked out or close to being kicked out. I'm 50%.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Just the idea of constantly being watched creates a constant state of anxiety among the residents and the managers. This sense of paranoia suppresses any attempt to resist or to question the system. And the tracking of their every move can erode trust with the residents and the managers, as they may suspect each other of reporting it to LaDonna. I remember when I covered the Word of Faith Fellowship cult, that even the husbands and the wives couldn't share concerns because of fear that the other might tell on them.
Is she there, or is she physically there every day, or is this just through the phone? How is she controlling the situation?
Through Messenger. We are all on the threads. And so she is basically calling the shots, and then there's the managers. The managers kind of just get stuff done, make sure Oasis is running smoothly. The managers are basically her minions.
And she's kind of like the man behind the curtain.
Yes, 100%. She only came to campus one time, and that was, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago when some shit was going down, and she showed up, and that was a huge deal, that LaDonna. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, she just does it from the comfort of her, her phone or her computer. And that's what's so sick about all of this, is because she just sits, we're like little game pieces to her. Let's kick the hornet's nest, and she would always create almost like these no-win situations. You could be giving your day, your everyday, everything you've got, working your program, taking care of things you got to do in your personal life, plus working and figuring out rides and babysitting and just all of it. And then she would create some kind of chaos, and it was just, we were exhausted.
The question is, how much do these managers get paid to carry out LaDonna's orders? The answer is exactly what you'd expect.
How much do house managers get paid? They only get a room?
They get a room, or now we have several now that have graduated. As far as I know, they don't get paid, but I don't know.
Because you could say, oh, well, this is where the money's going. I'm paying my managers, and she's not even paying the managers.
Well,
like we talked about in the previous episodes, residents at Oasis don't get much other than a roof over their heads. They say they lived in cramped and sometimes unsafe conditions. But where is all that rent money going? What about all these donations? Those were rhetorical questions, by the way. It seems like there's a lot more money coming in than there's money going out. For instance, during the COVID-19 shutdown, an organization called HARC offered emergency rental assistance for people experiencing financial hardship. The requirements are having an income of 80% lower than the median income, the person has to be eligible for unemployment benefits, or has incurred significant financial hardship.
Like some of the new girls, which that made sense. They didn't have money. They didn't have jobs. That was okay. Then we all had to do it. Every single one of us, whether we were caught up on rent, anything. And it pretty much was either you do this or you can leave. I didn't need it. I couldn't figure out. And I thought, oh, she doesn't mean me. And yeah, she did.
How much money did she make?
I wish I could remember. I know mine, I think, was like a couple months.
Like ballpark, like how much did you get?
God, if I remember correctly, I want to say like $8,000 or something. Because she had me go back like 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So like if you multiply that by all the girls, like everybody probably got different amounts, but still that's a sizable amount of money, right?
Yeah, there was one girl and I know her very well and I trust everything she tells me. She always paid her rent on her paychecks every 2 weeks. So she was straight.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I don't need to pay it. I don't, I've got money in savings. And she's like, I don't need to do this. And I said, no, you do.
Wow.
And she made her. So she did it. And then she graduated and went on with her life. Well, she got COVID and she's got children and she couldn't work. And Hark said, well, we've already given you money.
Oh, my God.
So she got behind on her
For real, right?
For real, yeah.
Because like previously she was getting the money, but it was going to Oasis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we didn't see any of it.
And if you didn't see it coming into Oasis, where did that money go, you think?
It went to her. Because that's who we pay our rent to.
Residents and managers are required to submit their financial details to LaDonna, including pay stubs and bank account information. But it doesn't go the other way around. Residents and the public in general are left in the dark when it comes to Oasis and their financial transparency. Let's go back to our comparison. Cult leaders often misappropriate resources meant for the collective benefit to enhance their personal lifestyle. The question is that happening at Oasis? Let's take a look. Remember during the last episode, some of the residents were complaining that Oasis promised them transportation support, but that was a lie? Oasis doesn't own any vehicles.
I guess it was like a grant, or I'm not sure, to get money for 2 vehicles, and she asked for $15,000. And like I said, this was a meeting. They said they would take it back to their people. They met with us and prayed with us and all this. It was, not my thing, but okay.
You were in that meeting?
I was there. And I'm telling, how great it is and how we really need this transportation for the women. And
you really did, right?
Yeah. And I had a car at the time, so, but
But the women needed it.
And you're not allowed to have a car. So like if I came to the program and I had a vehicle and a license and everything was straight, she does not let you have to have permission to have it.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because you can only park so many cars, right?
Yeah, but when we don't have any.
Yeah.
She's made people take them when they've had a fine parking spot.
Wow.
She made a lady leave because she bought a car.
Well, so that's interesting. So you go to this meeting, you pray about it, even in the meeting, everything. It's a faith-based type of donation. How much was the money? How much money did
we asked for $15,000.
And did they give it to you?
From what I understand, yes. I was told that we did get it.
By the way, I confirmed that it was more like $10,000.
So we were all excited. And another person that was at that meeting had been looking for vehicles. And she was telling me, she goes, I just don't understand why we're not getting these. I found 2 perfect ones.
Instead of purchasing the intended vehicles, Cindy wonders if the funds were diverted to LaDonna's purse.
She said she bought a new Tahoe. No, not a brand new Tahoe. I believe it was like a 2018, but
But it was newish,
But
right?
it was new, yeah.
After the break, we're going to talk about the reaction to my podcast and the effect it's had on the Oasis house since the last episode dropped. It's not good. You may be wondering, has LaDonna ever been accused of harassing her Oasis residents by using spoof numbers or fake emails? Nah, she wouldn't do that to vulnerable women who are overcoming addiction, right? Right? Oh boy, here's Cindy again.
The whole season we've been talking about, like, the central theme is that LaDonna has been accused of harassing people and like sending spoof emails. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yeah. No, I've got tons of them. I can't even tell you. It would just come over and over. And like Alicia said, the filthiest language, pictures of, and they'd say, oh, that's you and LaDonna. And
like just really disgusting stuff?
Yeah. I mean,
why did you think it was LaDonna?
I honestly don't know. I can't explain it, but I got a feeling it was her. It was just a feeling. There was other people, there was, like I said, there was this manager getting one, and then Robert was getting them.
Yes, Robert Haggard, the board member accused of hooking up with the residents. One message with Robert's picture on it read, "Beware, bad experience. Anyone else?" He's preoccupied with the size of his... I declined to partake, but he likes to show it off to all the ladies.
And then there was, oh, well, maybe it's Cindy. Like Robert for a while was trying to say it was me. And I was like, dude, I am too busy in life to do, you know what I mean? Like it was ridiculous.
Cindy texted LaDonna and asked, quote, "Was that you? Tell me the truth." And LaDonna responded, quote, "It's me, I did it," unquote. Dude, this is the director of a nonprofit posting harassing messages about one of her own board members. A board member she famously says is like a son to her. Wow. Don't believe me? I'll post the screenshot on my social media. It's pure insanity. With friends like LaDonna, who needs enemies, right?
The best one with that was somebody got one and they were saying that there was Hispanics in one of the bedrooms hiding underneath the women's beds. And we were trying to figure out, supposedly, if this one girl was texting. 4 managers had to go down and check this room.
For Hispanics?
Uh-huh. It was crazy.
So
it'd take me a minute, but I could go back and tell you the very first one.
It would be interesting if you do send it. Were they emails or were they text messages?
Text messages.
Chances are it's probably like a spoof number, but she does make mistakes.
And she did make a mistake, a big one. Cindy showed me a text with a selfie of a woman wanting to join Oasis. The person spoke with broken English. I'll read it to you. Quote, "So I need Oasis and I get ye number. Can I come today? I need housing." She spelled housing, Housin. Cindy asked LaDonna if she recognized the woman from the text. LaDonna says, quote, "I know her. Someone is messing with you. That woman is psycho," unquote. Cindy asked, "Who is she?" LaDonna said, quote, "That's Danny's ex-girlfriend." Danny, by the way, is LaDonna's husband.
It was an old girlfriend.
Oh.
LaDonna was like, "Oh my God, that's Danny's ex-girlfriend from college," or I can't remember exactly when, but it was, and I was like, how the hell would Danny's ex-girlfriend know how to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was just too much that came into her that it eventually pointed to her.
So I sent that picture to Alicia Lockhart to see if she recognizes the woman in the picture. And guess what? That same picture popped up in Alicia's text history. In 2022, Alicia was sent the same picture from an anonymous phone number with a message that read, quote, "I love pies. Do you love pies? Or just lies?" unquote. The woman identified herself as Pam. Oh, it gets worse. I've been in touch with a third person who also received text messages from a woman named Pam. And these are just the text messages that I know of. So why would she do this? Well, to keep going on this tired analogy, creating chaos is a way a cult leader maintains control. They keep their followers disoriented, dependent, and less likely to challenge their authority.
Can women openly talk about like the problems that are happening at Oasis, or is that like a big no-no?
I mean, they do, but If she finds out, it'll be addressed. You know, like, don't you talk like this, blah, blah, blah. She does not like groups of people getting together. So there is constant drama in that house. Constant just stuff going on. Nobody can get along. Nobody likes each other. You know, like the dishes, you know, laying out. Yeah. You know, someone really, you're going to tell me out for a fork? You know what I mean? And I'm just, excuse my language, I'm just this is what happens is women get upset with that because now they have a 7 o'clock curfew for 2 weeks because there was a fork in the sink and this girl told on me. So guess what? There's drama.
Even when managers started questioning the harsh practices or where the money was going, they never felt safe to talk about it.
You know that eye conversation you can have with somebody? Mm-hmm. It was like that, and I was told we would, you know, talk, and she never got back to me.
Yeah. Just like the residents I spoke with, these former managers wanted out. But that's easier said than done.
I had told Miss LaDonna like a month or two prior that I had to be very, very careful because I knew that she held the power to kick me out anytime, and I had come too far. I had worked too hard. I had gotten my kind of low-key, got my bank account fattened up, but we also had to turn in all of our financial stuff to Miss LaDonna, our paycheck stubs, all of that. And I was trying to kind of that really bothered me because I thought she knows that I'm on my way out. And I did it in a very professional, like, hey, I just think I'm ready to go spread my wings. And at the time, campus was a shit show. And so I was just trying to kind of quietly exit the scene. But we have to let Miss LaDonna know all of our moves.
But I don't understand why you were a manager. Why you're not like court ordered to be there anymore? You're there working. Why does she need to see your pay stubs, and why does she have so much control over you?
I don't know. I thought it was just normal until I started telling my family like they would want to come to Arkansas to see me, and I'm like, okay, but we have a mandatory meeting here. You're just so controlled that I don't know why she needed to know. It's almost like if she knows that you're trying to leave and it's not in her control, like that's why she's so bitter about how I left. Because I knew it was coming down to the wire. I've been apartment hunting forever. And I went and looked at some places and I just wanted to get out. I had enough money in my account. I could make that transition. And so I'd worked a 10-hour shift. So when I left there, I had 50 minutes to get back to campus. And if I'm late, even a minute getting back to campus, I would be kicked out. You're dismissed.
Okay, can I ask you a question there? If LaDonna's not on campus, then who's keeping track of your time? The other managers?
Yes, like we have a manager schedule. So there's one manager that is doing count per night, and that is by curfew. If you're phase 1, you have to be inside by 9 o'clock p.m. And if you're phase 2, it's 10. And it changed on the weekends. And so every night we're doing count, which means we go from house to house and bed to bed and make sure everybody is inside and that nobody is allowed to go back outside for the rest of the night.
You felt like people were watching you is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, that was just the rule. We're on Live 360 and someone's going to know when they go to do count. They knew that you put it on a thread and Miss LaDonna can see where everybody's at. Like, for instance, if I was at work, I used to work late night. And so come curfew, everybody does a count. And it would almost be like, oh my gosh, it's 11 o'clock. Mel isn't here.
You're a manager. Why are you being tracked with a tracking app? Like, I could understand why a resident who's court ordered and maybe that's part of their parole or something like that. But why are you being tracked if you're just there working?
I was also a resident.
Oh, I see. Were you court ordered to be there or were you there voluntarily?
Yeah, I went voluntarily for the structure to kind of transition. Yeah. I knew that you could stay up to 2 years. I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Like, I can get that stepping stone, recovery based. You have to have 3 meetings a week because there's a lot of the outlines of Oasis that are very, very beneficial. So I needed the structure. And so, yes, I was not court ordered. And that's how I was able to escape. Because I heard the podcast the night before. I got the heads up from one of the girls there. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Mel!" I went into the dungeon, which is where we would all like keep our clothes and get dressed. And they put their headphones in my ear and flipped their phone screen around, and it was this cover.
You just quit just recently?
Yes, Yeah, that's why I'm in a hotel. I left on the 4th of July. I was already making the transition, had the money, just waiting for an apartment to come open. Listened to the podcast, got home from work at Oasis. One of the girls quietly gave me a heads up. I got up in my bunk bed, put in my earbuds, listened to the first episode. By the time the first episode ended, my heart was just beating out of my chest, and that's when I contacted my sister, Michelle. Keep in mind, I'm in the basement of Oasis in my bunk bed, hoping that nobody knows what I'm doing. And I'm listening to this podcast. And she's texting me, and she's like, holy shit. If I could, I would get in my car and come and get you right now. And I'm like, please don't freak out, or I'm going to freak out. And I was gone the next day. The next day was the 4th of July. I had enough money in my account. And so I knew that this would be my time to get out. My parents were already on the way down from Missouri. So 4th of July, so I'm already keeping in mind, okay, my parents are driving me to campus. We pull up, I go straight into the campus manager, also one of my homies, like good friends. We've been in the fight together. And I said, I'm leaving campus. My parents are here. And they all knew why I was leaving. Or some of them did. My homies did anyway. I told them, I said, if you give a shit, or you just need to know, it is in your best interest. You need to hear it. It's real. She's a monster. And she immediately grabbed her phone. She knew. Like, keep in mind, like, these are still my friends. We're still doing what we have to do to survive.
Right.
And there's very much that mutual respect with all of us. And so there were a lot of tears. Next thing I knew, just that fast, she had to let LaDonna know. Mel is here. She's leaving campus. And then boom, 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 here comes other managers. And I just know it's go time. I go downstairs, start packing my stuff. My parents are out. I tell my dad, don't get out of the car. I don't know. I just packed up my shit. There were a lot of tears, and I just tried to be very quiet and very cautious and packed my stuff. And I just said, this is bullshit. I said, if I could, I would take you guys with me. But I'll just know I will catch you on the flip side. I knew that I would be blocked. And I get a message from LaDonna that next morning or later that night. Hi, friend. Why'd you leave without saying goodbye? And chills ran through my fucking spine. She knows why I left.
Wow. That just, it really, my heart's racing right now just thinking about,
I know,
listening to the episode and feeling that urgency. And I hope that the other women don't feel like that. And I'm sure they do. And I hate that because they shouldn't be in that position. It shouldn't be that hard, right?
That's the tragedy of all of it, is we deserved to be able to say, we did it. We completed our program. We're healthy. We're doing it right. Like these women that would come up to me, be like, I get to see my baby this weekend. And I'm like, get to hug them and say, I am so proud of you. Look at you doing this. And then there's LaDonna that comes crashing down and undoes everything that we are fighting for, even encouraging each other. And it's just, I feel sick, like kind of like what Kaylin said.
Yeah.
I felt when I left there that night with my parents, I felt like they were getting me out of an abusive relationship. So did my parents. They were even kind of like, oh my gosh, we feel like we're breaking you out of jail. And I'm like, I kind of feel that way. And that is sad because you're right. It doesn't have to be this way. These women are fighting with everything they've got. And they know this is probably the last chance. I'm like, it doesn't have to be this way. We've done it. We're doing the work. It doesn't have to feel like this. It shouldn't be. I deserve to be able to hug those girls and leave with a moving truck and be like, hey, I got my own apartment. You guys can do this too. You can make it. But I had to do it like this because LaDonna can't fucking control herself and she's sick.
I think the audience is going to have a hard time understanding how a woman can have this much power and control sitting in her living room just typing on her phone.
Yes, it's the facade. We've all been to church with her. It's the epitome of a facade. And only some of us, I think, were smart enough to be like, something's not right here. And so you've been our saving grace for a lot of us that were like, oh my gosh, it's now or never. There are a lot of people that I love, all of my friends that I've gotten used to every day waking up and having each other's back. She had all of them block me. And even my bestie that's there, she called me bawling before it happened. And keep in mind, I had already left campus. And she called me crying. She goes, "No, she's about ready to make us block you. Just know that it's not us." I said, "I know." I said, "I love you. Just keep going. I will see you on the flip side." And that's fucking tragic.
Yeah. Where is your apartment situation? I thought you had one lined up.
It fell through. A lot of people around here, I went on an app called Roomies, and I've been trying to line up roommates, and some just haven't fallen through. And so I don't know, since the tornado, apartments are hard to come by. And so right now I'm just looking, but I feel better. I feel free. I'm safe and financially stable. I'm in limbo. I'm, paying $400 a week for a hotel, but I feel like I've made I did the right thing.
Wow. Well, I hope that things look up for you, and you were a manager and you're feeling this way. I can't even imagine, a woman who's doesn't have to deal with this and how they feel.
I want to be their voice. It's not okay. This is not okay. And every girl that is fighting the fight, all the lost girls, we're giving it everything we've got. We really are. We know what we've done wrong. We've burned our bridges. We know we've hurt. We know we're trying though. And I got to be their voice. It's very hard to listen to. Like, I've listened to the whole podcast. I would have to do it in sections. I would have to take breaks, because the further I would listen, the more it's kind of like when you've been victimized and you get that moment where you're like, it wasn't just me, or it wasn't just my thoughts. I wasn't going crazy. It was really happening. When you listen to the podcast, that realization kind of sets in, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this was real. And there was a real abuse going on, and there still is, and it almost takes your breath away. There wasn't one time, Javier, where I thought, no way, I can't see LaDonna doing that. Not one moment. It was just, oh my gosh, like, she did it. I just even know by her character. It's just like, ooh, it's horrifying. Like, you've got to be really sick to prey on women who are giving it everything they've got in life, and you're just toying with their lives. Like, that's dangerous. This is a life and death situation to some of these people, to some of these women.
Every now and then, it doesn't happen much, but every now and then I feel bad for her, because I'm like, I just feel like I'm just piling on at this point. I'm like, okay, I think people get the point, She does this kind of stuff, but and then I'm like, am I overdoing it? And I'm like, and then I listen to this and I'm like, no, I'm not overdoing it. This is ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yes, you're not overdoing it. And I have moments like that too, because I'm like, I think about, I've seen her hold a baby before, and that is probably the purest moment I've ever seen or heard from her. I think she genuinely has a love for kids, and she loves children. So when I remember that moment of seeing her hold a baby and that joy, and she just looked human for a minute, it's hard. Sometimes I feel sorry for her too, but I think that is just because you and I know what humility is.
Right.
But no, I don't think that you're taking it too far. I think she's got to be stopped. She's going to continue to ruin people's lives, is what I have to keep reminding myself.
All right, that's it for today's episode. I want to end it with this. On the Oasis Facebook page, there's a post from the board of directors. It says, on behalf of the Oasis of Northwest Arkansas Board of Directors, we wish to express our full support for our Executive Director, LaDonna Humphrey. For nearly 7 years, Ms. Humphrey has led our agency with unwavering passion and excellence. She is dedicated, hardworking, and committed to making a significant difference in the lives of women in recovery and their children. Despite the increasing challenges in her life as of late, we stand by LaDonna Humphrey and firmly believe that each obstacle will only strengthen her leadership. Rest assured that everything from our financial management to the execution of our program guidelines is conducted with the utmost excellence. We, the Board of Directors, are united in our support for LaDonna Humphrey and eagerly anticipate the future of Oasis of Northwest Arkansas under her leadership. Signed, the Oasis Northwest of Arkansas Board of Directors. But not all is honky-dory in Oasis land. In fact, on August 1st, they were supposed to have a Jailhouse Rock Gala, which was a jailhouse gala, let that sink in, to raise money for women who are transitioning out of jail. Besides the fact that that's completely tasteless, general admission was $50 a person, and a table of 8 was $350. It's rumored that they are postponing this event, so we'll see if all those people who paid money to go to that event will receive a refund. This episode was written and produced by me, Javier Leyva. It was also produced by Allison Byrne, edited by the talented Punith Shenoy with the Podcast Pundits, and the theme music by Joe Basile with thechicken.net. Again, if you're riveted by this story, you're one of the few because the season's still not that popular. So it's your job to leave a review, tell me what you think of the show. You can do that right on the Spotify app too. It's really cool. You could actually message and talk about the episode. But most importantly, just tell a friend about this podcast and this show. If you find it interesting, share it. All right, guys, let me know what you think of the show. Talk to you soon.
Creative Babble.